see my
There
printer.
you are.
How are you?
Pretty good. Yourself?
How are you doing?
You had me
I'm
thinking that
awesome.
you had me thinking that you're getting plastic surgery, talking about having to get your face straight.
When I get my face straight, that means I need to put a little bit of makeup on to hide the dark circles. I need to put some earrings on. And then today it's been raining here, so I went out earlier and my hair got wet, and so it is not a cute sight right now, so I got my cute hat on. So.
Well, you look good. I think you did well.
You. Thank you.
So how's your day going? I know you said it was a little rough start.
Yeah. So yesterday I was in the hospital, had a little bug, and so took care of that. And today has been all about resting. So resting and still grinding because I didn't go to sleep until 5:30. So if you saw my Facebook post, I placed out there around 5:30 this morning. I was just going to sleep. So
Gotcha.
But yeah, you know how the grind is.
Yeah, doesn't stop.
Does not stop.
Hey, but the rest is real. I think I'm gonna turn this thing off.
Oh, absolutely.
I was having some technical difficulties right at 5 o'clock, and I was like, nope, I came prepared. I got the backup, an old phone just in case.
Ah, okay, good. I like the backups.
Yep. Oh, you want to just jump into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So, well, first of all, welcome to the podcast. It's kind of informal a little bit, but I always like to start with giving you a chance to introduce yourself as you may, and I just preface it with this question. Who do you say you are?
Wow, that's a powerful question. So I'm Shelly Shelton. I'm a women's empowerment coach, speaker, and author. And to sum it all up, I feel like I'm a woman of God that is trying her best to impact the world. And sometimes we'll reference like that XYZ statement. So to put it in those terms, I help separated and divorced women that are going through major trauma financially, emotionally, bounce back so that they can learn how to love life again. And so that's my story. That's who I am.
Wow, you made that sound like it's just like, oh yeah, that's just me. Just not a whole lot going on here.
That's all.
Gotcha.
That's how I do it.
So I mean, how did you get started? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a small town called Goochland, Virginia. Okay. And if you've ever heard of Justin Verlander, he's a pitcher with one of those baseball teams. I can't recall which one now, but he's from Goochland. He's the only person that I know that has celebrity status that's from Goochland. Okay. And so grew up there, went to school there, and a lot of things transpired there and changed my life, and definitely has made an impact on who I am today. So I'll definitely say that.
Gotcha. Positive or negative?
Both. Combination of both. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to speak to that a little bit more, or should we steer clear for?
You know, I think I opened that umbrella up real quick, didn't I? Good. Okay, I'll say this: good from the standpoint of if these things had not have occurred in my life, I would not have written my first book. Okay. If these things had not occurred in my life, I would not be a speaker today. And if these things had not occurred, my self-esteem would not have been where it was years ago. And so that's the good, the bad, and the ugly all combined together with that.
Wow. Gotcha.
Yep. I know, I just dropped a lot on you one time.
Well, I mean, that's fine. It's a good chance to just be able to unpack things, because as I've been doing this slowly but steadily, it's been a good, like, it's been a good exercise for me, not only to get a chance to know you, the person that I'm interviewing, but also to just understand how to listen and how to ask questions to where I'm actually asking a question that means something to you, and I'm not just asking a question to ask a question.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So you said you mentioned that the first book that you've written, what was the book?
So the first book is called Smile, the How-To Guide to Get Through Any Storm. And so it basically talks a lot about how you get through the things that happen in your life. Okay. And especially, you know, another piece of my life, and I'm sure somehow in the end we'll talk about it, but I used to be blind, unable to walk, and multiple sclerosis tried to take hold of my life, and then divorce was an impact. So, but we'll get to all that later.
Right. we'll get there eventually. So I know initially when I reached out to you, it was through Breathe University, because that's how I kind of came to know you from afar, where I joined Breathe University back in 2016.
Oh, I didn't realize you joined in 2016. So yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I started in 2016.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. February 2016.
Got you. Nice. I think I was in September.
Ah.
Yeah.
So remind me where you're from.
I'm from Georgia. Well, originally from Cameroon, but I've spent most of my life growing up here in Dalton, Georgia.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm a part of the group that started the DMV crew. So me, Nikki, the whole crew.
Got you.
With E and CJ and everybody that started a bunch of the stuff back in 2016. So yeah.
Does that seem like so far away now?
It does. It does. It seems like a long time now. So
yeah.
I am blessed. I will say this before we get started. I am so incredibly blessed and honored with what ET has done with my life. And, you know, I texted him this morning. We have such a great relationship. Anything I need, he's always there. He's been such a instrumental force in my life to help me continue to grow and blossom and to get me straight when I should be resting. Like he'll be the first to say, yeah, you know, I talk about grinding, but I need you to rest, because this is no joke. So I'm incredibly blessed that God placed me in his life and him in my life. So I'm so thankful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny because like you said, a lot of people talk about the grind, or like just like working hard every day, day in and day out, like no sleep. But a lot of times it seems like people don't talk about that, the rest component. Has that been a big factor in your life where you've had to kind of step back, or your body's made you step back?
Oh, all the time. With multiple sclerosis, and I don't know, this may be the form where God wants us to just make that more aware. With multiple sclerosis, it's a neurological illness that attacks your immune system, and so you have to rest. And I am at my worst when I do not rest. I can't move, I can't function, I cannot think.
Gotcha.
And so grinding and executing is awesome. When it takes over my life, it impacts my health. And so resting is extremely vital to everyone's success. And so I want to, you know, caution everybody, yes, please continue to grind, but rest, please make rest a part of your life. It's so important.
That's a great point. And it's funny. I'm just laughing because as I'm speaking, and I remember, like, I record this and then I have to listen back to it later to edit it, and I hear all the little phrases that I keep using, and I keep saying it's funny because it's almost sounds like I'm telling myself a joke or listening to everything as a joke. But what I'm trying to say is that when you talk about the resting, I felt that effect over the past few years, because I kind of came across ET around 2013 when I was doing a reevaluation of my life. And then since then, it's been like go to work. I work in construction engineering. So I went to work with a construction company that's well known, and they've been in the industry that they've been in for over 130 years. So they have like a bread and butter technique that they go in, they build storage tanks specifically, and they know how to do that. They can be in and out within weeks or within days, depending on like the size of the project and things of that sort. And for me, it was one of those things, learning not only how to go into the work environment, say like the quote unquote corporate environment, but understanding or kind of becoming aware of what you consider an entrepreneurship mindset, where it's, you have that like itch where something's constantly driving you, or you're driving yourself to where your boss doesn't necessarily need to chase you and say, hey, I needed this. Like every time he comes and speaks to you, you already have it done, and it's just like, oh, here's 5 more. But to your point, if you don't rest, your body will quickly tell you, it's like, hey, you need to stop right here. Like, you're not in college anymore. You can't take naps during the day, so you can't sleep at work, so you're going to need to go to bed on time. If you're going to wake up at 3, you got to go to bed at 9. It's like,
that's right.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned the word nap, because I take a nap every day. So ever since I was 8 years old, and this is where your question you have for me earlier about my past impacting it good or bad. When I was 8 years old, I raised my 3-year-old sister. Both my parents were both working 2 jobs. And I would get up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning to handle myself and to handle a 3-year-old. And so ever since I was 8, I've been getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Gotcha.
And so when I started seeing people getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, also when with dealing with ET and everyone, I thought I was the only crazy one. Like I used to think that I was crazy because my body has always gotten me up at 4. Like,
right.
But every single day I take a nap. I schedule myself a nap, 5:30. I work from home, by the way. I work from home, have been for 15 years. And so I take a nap. People used to clown me about that. And used to be like, girl, what are you thinking? You can take a nap. Ha, ha, ha. You so old and all this old stuff. I'm telling you, once I took that nap, it's like my life restarted every single day. It is so powerful. So I take a 45-minute to an hour nap every day. I don't care what's going on. So,
that's nice.
So yes. So rest is key. In those moments that you get burned out, please rest.
Oh yeah. I learned I guess the easy way and the hard way.
Ah, yes. I had to learn both ways as well. Mostly the hard way.
Gotcha. So I know whenever I reached out to you, I had asked you for your bio, and you sent me what I think is like the best thing anyone has ever had, just like prepared, which was a video of a talk that you did. And was the video titled Linda? Or
it should have been titled Linda.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that video? Because I thought just the way you told the story and the way you just explained the situation to the audience that you were talking to, it was just like, as soon as you said it, I was like, man, that just hit me.
Wow. Thank you. Someone yesterday sent me a text saying how powerful that video was. So that video was my story. And whenever anyone says, oh, Shelly, I want to know your life story, I want to know your bio, let me send it to you in video form. But yeah, the video basically talks about my life. When I was in college, I would go and see my grandmother. And my grandmother would tell me all sorts of stuff. Like everyone has a grandmother that tells you all sorts of stories and has these thoughts and stuff. Well, my grandmother was very scared of storms. And whenever a storm would come up, she would say, I smell a storm coming. I'm like, so I went by one day and she was like, I smell a storm coming. And I'm like, Grandma, what are you talking about? She said, I smell a storm coming. And so she's racing around the room. She's only 4'11", racing around the room, has me racing around the room with her to unplug everything in her house. And she's talking about how scared she is. And in that moment that she's telling me this, it's like my brain is saying, I need for you to think about the storms that you're going through right now in your life. And it was a relationship that I was in. And so that video explains about the relationship. I was with this guy from college, and eventually married him, and then the marriage fell apart. And so I'm so blessed that I was able to explain it clearly where everyone understood what I was talking about. And so I explained it, how it just completely fell apart, like step by step. I could see it, like boom, the building was falling down, the communication, boom, was falling apart. And in that moment, I realized my life had changed forever, because we were together for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was a major storm. I had never been through anything. I had never been through a major heartbreak. And that was an investment. People don't understand. Like when you hear people talking about investing in money, investing in real estate, but when you invest 20 years with one person, that's a major investment of time.
Right.
And so things fell apart. And then while it was falling apart, I got to a point of major depression and was ready to completely give up. And I went to my car and I pulled the garage door down, and I said, okay, God, like I'm ready. Like I'm done with life. I'm done with all these storms. I had already gone through MS. I had been blind. I had, couldn't. And so all these things, I said, God, I'm done. I can't deal with it anymore. And at the moment I turned my truck on, the garage door was down. I could smell the fumes coming in my car. And I clearly heard God say, Shelly, it's not your time. And in that moment, I was like, okay, God, like I'm crying, I'm bawling. I said, God, so tell me what it is that you want me to do. And he says to me, all this stuff. And so I jump out my car as I'm just clearly listening. I'm writing everything down. And as I'm writing everything down, every beginning of what I had written down is spelled out Linda in the front, like Linda. So I was like, okay, so God, so he's like teaching me about the people that were supposed to come in my life and help me through this storm, because I was at that point where I was completely falling apart, that I needed some support. And so he taught me how to bring the most powerful, amazing, incredible women into my life, and then told me that I was going to empower them to continue to move forward. And it's all out in my video. So I've been getting a lot of people now that have been looking at it. So it's been great. So thank you so much. I appreciate the comments and feedback about it.
You're welcome. And I'll see, hopefully by the time I put this video out, I'll have figured out how to link it within the recording or within at least the bio.
Okay.
How long, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that video, the part that I didn't share was my getting certified as an ET speaker. If you listen to it, E is in the background. He is saying, yes, that's him. Yes. Like you hear him speaking.
Gotcha.
So I was nervous as heck. And I had never, like, some of the stuff that you hear me say, I had not prepared it. Like I had prepared some stuff, and because, CJ Quinn was in the room, and I get more nervous from CJ than I do with and and as I was saying it, I was like, okay, boom. And it just started coming out. And then I didn't feel that complete clarity with it until I heard ET in the background. Like, yeah, I'm agreeing with you saying, yeah, you're flowing now. So, so that was such a blessing. It was a painful blessing, but.
How long ago was that?
So I got certified as an certified ET speaker, 2017. So that was September 2017 when I did it.
Oh, wow.
So and I took a long time to even put it out. So I was scared, and I'll share this with you. I always tell people about sharing and being vulnerable with their story, and that story I didn't want to put out, and I didn't want to tell people that part about how vulnerable I was, how I had completely fallen apart, how I had hit ground zero.
Right.
You get to a point when you're ready to take your own life, you are at ground zero.
Right.
And I had to rebuild my life. And so I took a while to even put it out there.
Hey, but you put it out there. That's what's important.
Yeah.
and the fact that it's impacting people, and you can just say, hey, this is my life story. I think I'll probably title this The Story of Linda with Shelly Shelton.
Yeah, I like that.
And the yeah, wow. Because I remember hearing about you because you're, I guess, what would you call it? Like the person that started the Lady Lions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the group of women that you form to be your Lindas.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
And can you explain what the acronym Linda means?
Yes. So Linda stands for Led by the Holy Spirit. The I stands for I give mentality, meaning you give of everything, your heart, your money, your tithes, whatever. N is negativity, is my kryptonite, meaning whoever God is going to place in my life, if she's negative, if she gossips, she ain't for me. She will not be in my circle. The D is death do us part, meaning she's going to be a ride or die chick.
Gotcha.
And then the A is accountability. So I'm going to hold her accountable and she's going to hold me accountable. So yeah. Yep. So that's Linda.
It's amazing because I want to say from the time that I heard about you and the Lady Lioness, and then soon after I heard about the prayer line, and I joined in 2016, but I didn't really get active until like the end of the year. And I was one of those people that sat in the back, didn't want to say anything, just kind of sit on the phone like, oh yeah, these people are talking about really nice things. And I think it was YB, Robert Youngblood.
Yeah.
He jumped on one day and he was just like, hey, for all of you guys out there that aren't saying anything, you got to understand that you're robbing the line. Like you're robbing people of your gift. And I've heard that so many times that people say, when you don't speak, and when you don't use your gifts, like people die.
Yeah.
I think I've heard Quest Green say that multiple times. And like the first time he said that to me, I was just like, it just made me very uncomfortable because I was like, I'm not out here trying to kill anybody. I'm just trying to be myself. Like I'm trying to be easygoing, like not bothering anybody. But it's like, hey, like when you open your mouth, somebody needs to hear what comes out of that. And
Absolutely.
like seeing you from afar and knowing that, okay, there's a group of women that get together and pray on a regular basis. I was like, okay. Then they start mentioning there's a men's group that does this. And I'm like, okay, where can I find this? Like I keep looking around this corner, that corner. Finally, I put the message out there and I'm like, okay, where is this prayer line you guys keep talking about? And then somebody sent me the number and I jumped on and just kind of kept working and listening in, and I chimed in from time to time. And by the time 2017 hit, I think is probably September, right around the same time you did the recording of the video, was when I went up to DC for the Stay Ready conference that they had. I think I still keep this bracelet because it was the first VIP event I paid for.
Oh.
And
did we meet there?
Maybe it might have been in passing because there's always so many people at the events, but it's like unless you communicate like this, it's hard to tell like who all's there.
Yeah, I think we met there. So in 2016, 2017, I was going to like almost all the conferences, and then I stopped. I was like, okay, let me get my funds together here. So 2018, I didn't really go to any. In 2019, I've been to a couple.
Gotcha.
But I agree with you. So so I want to even challenge you, and this is just who I am. I just want to challenge you even more to open up even more.
Okay.
You, I'm sure, have probably shared your story on the men's line. You probably have shared some things that are challenges for you.
Yeah.
I want to challenge you to say something every day.
Right.
Even if it's 30 seconds. So yes, because prayer changes things.
Yes,
and when
it does.
two or more come together, God is in the midst thereof. And so your life will begin to change even more. So
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me, can I speak a little bit about the Lady Lions real quick?
Yes, of course. This is your time.
Okay. So I started that initially with ET. And so originally it was just me and him, and then we had like 5 ladies on that, me, ET, and 5 other ladies. And then it grew within 30 or 60 days to about 50 people. And then in 90 days had almost grown to 100 people. And so by the end of 2016, like, he got crazy busy and couldn't get on as much. And so it was transferred completely over to me. So everything dealing with the Lady Lions is me.
Gotcha.
And so I have us every year going on retreats. And so we'll meet up in a different city, different state. This year is in Scottsdale, Arizona. So this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 25th through the 27th, I have all my girls meeting together in Scottsdale, Arizona. I have speakers. I have swag bags. I have fun. It is spiritual. It is financial breakthroughs. It is emotional breakthroughs. It is a major breakthrough professionally. So everything. And so one of the things that I had prayed to God about when he gave me this idea, because I went to ET and I said, can we have a prayer group just for women? I said, I've already prayed about it. I've already asked God about how I want this to look. He said, okay, make it happen. So I asked him on a Monday, Wednesday, we made it happen. And every individual that comes on, we are instantly close. I don't care what city, state, country you're in, we are instantly closer than you are to your own family. And I had prayed about that. I said, okay, God, because we as women, we gossip, we do it, we say a bunch of same things, we're catty, we're all sorts of things with one another. We don't always have that instant love. And I said, God, I need instant love with this, just like the love that you pour out into the world. Right. And that's what the Lady Lions are. Gotcha. Most people think when I created the name Lady Lions, that it was because he always talking about lions and gazelles. I didn't even know at the time he was talking about lions and gazelles. So it actually is an acronym. Lions is an acronym. So it stands for like-minded leaders interacting as, I'm going to forget my own acronym, as, interacting obsessively as, how can I forget my own acronym? It's something service. I forgot what my N is. Gotcha. I'll come back to it. I don't know why I can't even think of it. It's like, okay. But it's actually,
you're pretty good with the acronyms, though.
I know, right? I'm always coming up with some sort of acronym. But it was created to empower women to grow and to always remember that what we do is serve God. The word just came to my mind. Like, okay, why? So I'll come back to you. But yes, and so the Lady Lions, and so we originally got up to like over 100 and something, and about 20-25 of us are coming together in Scottsdale, and so it's going to be blessed. It's going to be
gotcha.
Never ending service. There we go. Like-minded leaders interacting obsessively as never-ending service. So never-ending. We always will serve God. So yes. Okay, so there you go.
That's amazing. It's funny because you started the retreats how long ago? Because the group started in 2016 and then...
Yep. So the first one, I started in 2016 with the first retreat. ET was at the first one. ET, CJ, and CJ's family. Jeremy Anderson was there and his family. I'm very close with Jeremy. So all of them were there. That was in Atlanta. We had the very first one in October 2016 in Atlanta. And so every October I have one. So every October I have one in a different city or state. So we started in Atlanta with the first one.
That's awesome. I think the men, they had the first retreat in 2017. And if I'm correct, I want to say they've been around for maybe like 20 plus years because he started it with some of his college classmates and friends. And then it kind of just expanded to where people will be invited on and be able to like talk about it. And I guess we kind of keep it on the hush, but like we'll bring people in because it's supposed to be like a spiritual barbershop type feel where you get in and you cut jokes, but it's always funny where we're able to just talk and you have real conversation with real men and men of God. That is where it was something new for me because I grew up in the faith And I saw it more so from a religious standpoint, where it's like you're raised and trained how to do right. But like leaving home, going to college, and like having your mindset kind of challenges. Like somebody asked me once, it's like, what does it mean to be a Christian? And it's like, I hadn't thought about it. I was like, so if you're a Christian, that means you're a follower of Christ, right? And they just started kind of like poking, like trying to poke holes into like what I believe. And I was like, I don't know, but let me get back to you on that. And it's like, I took that on as like, okay, let me see why it is I believe what I believe. Let me go to different churches randomly, just like peek in there, like sit in the back, like try and see like, okay, what's the Pentecost, what's this, what's that, but not to get off track. Is just going through that experience where you have your faith kind of challenged, and then going and doing the research yourself, I think brought me closer to wanting to have like a personal relationship with God. And what's funny is the first time I saw E at a live event was in 2016, because he happened to be in Augusta, or not in Augusta, in Atlanta. I was in Augusta, so I drove over to Atlanta, which is about 2.5 hours. And whenever I went there, I happened to see Tobe Nwigwe, who rocked with E, or who still rocks with E. And I had just seen one of his videos online on YouTube where E had let him speak at one of his events. And he tells his story about how he got started rapping with CJ, encouraging him, and his mom kind of making fun of him, where it's like, okay, you're like, as a foreigner or a Nigerian, it's like there's this certain standard where you got to be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And if you don't meet that, you kind of fail that life. And whenever I saw him in the lobby, I was like, oh, wait, you're the guy from the video. I was like, what's up? Like, and we were able to he just talked to me like a regular person. So that impressed upon me, not from just seeing the video, but when you actually meet somebody face to face and they're just genuine about who they are, I was like, wow. And when I spoke with him, I kind of had one of those like oops moments where you see E.T.'s name, Eric Thomas's name on the YouTube video. It's E.T. the hip hop preacher. So I just thought that was something catchy. But like from the moment I started watching his videos, I was like, I listened to it. I was like, okay, I'm excited. But like 3 or 4 videos in, I'm like, okay, this guy, he's not just talking. He's not just motivating. He's preaching, but he's not preaching. And then the things he kept saying, I was like, okay, I grew up with this. And the way he's saying it lines up exactly. So I was like, I trust him. But then meeting Tobe in person and him saying, oh, yeah, he's an actual pastor. Like that's what he does. And then seeing him actually present live and in person for the first time, I was just happy to be in the building. I got there an hour early and like sat down, and then he comes out and he starts speaking with his eyes closed. And I was like, who does that? And then the more he kept speaking, I think at one point it's almost like he just blacked out and he just went off. Like he just let us have it. And I was like, I got to get my life together right now.
Yes, he moves you to get your life together, right?
Yeah.
I know. He has that powerful, I tell E all the time, he has that powerful anointing on his life. And when he talks, it's gold. So yeah, I was so blessed. The power of accountability, his video, if you go back and look at the power of accountability, he talks about Chris Daniel and Kendall and Jeremy and Jers, David Shannon. Yeah, and at the end he talks about me from a women's standpoint. So the power of accountability, and he's showing me in a video. I think we have yet, like he has done so much in the past 20 plus years, but we have yet to see what God is going to do with him. Like it's crazy, crazy powerful. So I don't know too many people in this world that don't know who he is. But he's definitely anointed. So yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And what's funny, I love that you say that, because seeing him in person, I was impressed, because I was like, okay, this person's real. Like, he
Yeah.
means what he says. He's not trying to like be one way online, be another way in person. And the people that he surrounds himself with are genuine. Like,
Yeah.
I just happened to walk by Tobe in the hallway, and he was talking to Tay. Like, I didn't know who Tay was at the time. It's like they were just cutting up. And then
Yeah.
he saw me, he's like, hey man, what's up? And like gave me like 15 minutes of his time. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm Cameroonian, you're Nigerian, we're next door neighbors. Like, I saw what you meant with the parents thing. Like, yeah, the struggle is real. But
Yeah.
like
This is awesome.
after seeing that, I went to Charlotte next because a friend of mine couldn't make it, and I was like, you got to come check this out. So like being able to bring somebody with me is like, man, it's amazing. And then going into 2017, hearing about the prayer line and actually jumping on there and hearing people interact, and just like the level and the dynamics of the conversation, and like not just everyday conversation, but like having a conversation to address a problem before you pray about it. I was like,
Yeah.
that's different. Like, you're not like, okay, here's an issue that I have, I'm going through this. It's like, okay, well, like, speak it all the way out. And it's like, okay, well, I've gone through the same thing, so here are some actions that you're going to take after you get off of this call. Now let's pray on it and then move forward from there. And I was like, okay, so whenever somebody, I don't know who listens to this, but I'm not really worried about that. But whenever I see people challenge quote unquote religion or Christianity, I see why they challenge it, and I see why they kind of despise it, because I despise it in that same sense, where it's that the faith has been kind of perverted by people that kind of prey on others, and they use the knowledge that they have to their advantage, where it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you this much, but so long as I have a hold on you, I'm going to get what I need to get from you, versus you being able to reach God. I'm going to either try and fool you to tell you that you have to do these things, or I'm going to set up some schemes like many people have been found to do, like having people send them money to do something like that. But just being around people like yourself, like ET, that are true about what they do, and they really walk in the faith and continue to improve upon themselves and have that accountability, where they call to their peers, whether people are either beneath them by age level or above them, they're willing to listen and actually say, okay, if I'm not doing something right, check me. And then I'm going to make the adjustment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. Yeah. Making those adjustments are key.
Yeah. They're not easy, but
No,
they're
they're
key.
not.
Yeah.
They're not easy, but they are definitely imperative, definitely needed. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So so now you said you've been working from home for 15 years. So what is it exactly that you do?
So I have a full-time job in
Okay.
addition to all my side gigs on the side. So my side gig life is what I want to make into my life. I don't want to say full-time job, because it's not a full-time job. Once you go after that purpose and passion, it is just your life. It's not a
Mhm.
job. But so from a full-time perspective, I am a talent acquisition manager,
Mhm.
and I handle 11 states as far as handling the recruitment, staffing, and acquiring talent process for my employer.
Gotcha.
And so for the past 15 years, I've worked from home for
Mhm.
different employers. But I have been in prayer that every time God moves me from one employer to another, that
Mhm.
is working remotely from home. I enjoy that the most. And it's also afforded me to be able to rest when I need to rest,
Right.
and go after my grind when I need to go after my grind with my side gig life.
Gotcha.
And one of the things that's most important to me now with my side gig life is a new book that I have coming out that I haven't even really talked about. So this is an opportunity on your platform for me to be able to talk about it. I talked about Smile, the how-to guide to get through any storm. That's been out since 2017. When I was married, my husband at the time and I wanted to have a son. And we would actually walk around the house and speak him into existence. And so he didn't, in our minds, he didn't have a name then. So we would call him a child. So we would say stuff like, "A child, come on in, let's have dinner. Come on downstairs. A child, like, tell me about your day." Like we would say stuff like that, speaking him into existence. Like that's how powerful. And so even though our marriage fell apart, he went on his way, and I am where I am today. I still had the desire to have a child, and his name would be Chandler. And so, God's word says that he will give you the desires of your heart. And so I desire to have this child. And I said, okay, Lord, well, I don't want to be a single mom. Like I said, okay, God, like I love single mothers. Don't get me wrong on that, Lord. I love single mothers. However, my desire, Lord, is for me not to be a single mother, but me having a neurological illness. This thing is a chronic illness. And so, Lord, that's not what I want. And so we said, all right, so this is the type of conversation God and I had. So, all right, so, I want to still bring him into this world. All right, so let's do this in a different fashion. And so, since 2017, after that speech that you saw online about Linda, I wrote a book for Chandler. And it is a book where the child that I envision him, like how he looked, how he sounded, his little curls in his hair, the kids he would impact, the things he would say, the life he would have. I envision those things. And so I have this book that'll be coming out most likely by November 1st. So you'll begin to see me on social media talk about meeting Chandler, that he will be birthed on November 1st, or he may be birthed last few days in October. So we'll see. We'll see when the baby will be here.
Right.
So the vision, God's word says, make the vision, write and make it plain. And so I wrote the vision, make it plain. And so when I wrote it, everything was like, boom, like there it is. And so he narrates the book, and so he goes on these different adventures. And so it's called, The Adventures of Chandler and the Traveling Prayer Shawl. And so you will get you will begin to see some of that coming out here soon. So he'll be birthed here in the next few weeks. But I am so excited about this book. I'm more excited about this than I was about Smile, the how-to guide to get through any storm, because now that God has got me through that storm, I've impacted women, I've helped them through their storms. Now God's like, all right, let me prepare you, because I need you to help other women, other families, other men in different areas. And how many books are out there that show a young Black boy on the front of it and narrate about a young Black boy? And I'm like, I don't know too many, Lord. Right. So, and so the plan is, I envision, this is the new vision. All right, so the book is going to be out there. He's going to later meet up with Dora the Explorer. He's going to speak Spanish. He's going to be in cartoons. He's going to have his own gear. There will be a Chandler doll. Like, I have envisioned what my child that I always wanted to have, how he will impact the world. So even though I didn't birth him out of my belly, the idea, the vision will get birthed. And so I'm super, super excited about it. I can't wait to begin to talk more about it everywhere. As soon as I saw the cover, I was bawling, crying. Like, I've never seen anything where people can do that, where they can take the vision that you have in your head, right, and place it out on paper. I was bawling, crying. I showed it to ET, and he was like, yep, that's it. Yeah. Boom. So CJ was like, "Yep, that's it, boom." And I was like, "Yeah, when you get, you know, E and CJ to agree, oh yeah,
Right.
you gotta hurry up and roll with it then."
Yeah. You're doing something right.
Doing something right, right? And so I'm so incredibly excited. I pray in the name of Jesus that God uses this to impact the world. I want little brown kids, little black kids, little yellow kids, every child in this world to be impacted by what this little boy is going to do to help them with their life, all the little adventures. So I'm super duper excited.
It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So what, um, whenever I was looking at doing this podcast thing, and like we talked about earlier, when you speak out your truth,
Yeah.
it really helps you to unpack a lot of the things you've gone through. Because if I'm looking at this year right now, it started out pretty rough, and it's almost, what's that?
I said, really, tell me more.
Yeah.
How did it start out rough?
So it started rough in the fact of, I guess I didn't tie these things together until like I went on a job interview and somebody really asked me, it's like, what happened for you to leave your job? And like for the past 2 years, I would say, like the main reason why I joined ETA was because I felt that I was in a very negative environment. Or I won't necessarily say that I just felt it, but I was truly in a very negative environment. Just the amount of pressure being put on to not only perform the work, but the circumstances that we had to overcome. So to give you a little bit about it, but not too much, is basically I was working on this nuclear construction project. And if you know anything about nuclear, or if you don't know anything about it, since you had the events of 3 Mile Island on the US side and Chernobyl over in Europe, since then, there hasn't been any new nuclear facilities built in the United States for over 30 to 40 years now. So over in southeast Georgia, just south of Augusta, Georgia Power's been working on getting these 2 new units built with this new design that's been developed. And basically, this is a trial by error type thing. Like China has already taken the design and they put it out there, because as much as the population is growing, we need energy to be able to keep things running. And you want to be able to take things like emissions and coal offline to where we don't continue to pollute the environment, essentially. So essentially, I had the pleasure of working on a nuclear construction project for the last 3.5 years. And I'd say, I'm sure it's the numbers up from then, but it's essentially like a $14 billion plus project that's been up and running, as they should be winding down the phase of the construction over the next 3 years and actually put it online. But just to give you an idea of what that's like, it's like, imagine being in a high stress environment where you come into work, you don't necessarily have a clear plan about what you're going to do, but you know you're going to be working, say, like 10 to 12 hours. And then maybe you may have to stay later, or you may have to do 5 to 6. Some people do 7 days a week. And you're just doing this constantly, day after day, month after month, for over a 3-year period. Like there's times in there when you have breaks, but it's very non-conventional. And for me, kind of coming out of college, there's certain things school prepares you for, but once kind of life hits, you have to just be able to jump in with 2 feet and hit the ground running. So for me, I guess, not to bring up the DISC assessment, but that's one of the things that really kind of helped me last year with Chris before he passed. I actually had a chance to like consult with him, and just being in an environment where there's high demands, and anytime that you do something well, it seems like the next second it changes. So say we got up in the morning, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, we show up for work and we say we're going to do A. So like we walk out there to do A. Next thing we know, nope, throw away A. Like we need another plan. So all of a sudden on the ground, you have to like either make up something to do or kind of come up through your Rolodex with something. And you just have 5,000 people kind of running around, it seems like, with their head on fire most of the time. Like management's doing the best to kind of keep things in line, but internally we're working well. But you're supposed to be working with another group of people who, instead of working with you, they go against you just because they simply don't like you. Like they don't like the fact that you do good work. They don't like the fact that you might be taking work from them, even though the only reason you got the job was because they were giving the job and they didn't do it well. So they had to bring you in to kind of take over. So not to go on too much about that, but basically, does that paint a clear picture, or is that like a muddy enough picture, clear as mud?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. There was something else.
So essentially dealing with that and basically feeling like my head was going to just like explode any second. Like in 2016, after I saw them introduce, like CJ and Josh had come out in Charlotte and they talked about Breathe University, and I'd seen it on the videos and I was like, you know what, let me just spend some money and like join. Like what's the worst that could happen? Let me just jump in there. And I've always been kind of scared to spend money a little bit, just coming from like a poverty mindset or like a poor state, to where you never have enough. And then as soon as like you have more than enough, like since you didn't know what to do with what you had, the moment you have it, you're like, well, if I put a little bit here, it's going to go away and then I won't have enough. But kind of getting out of that mindset, getting connected to Breathe University, I started to try to do more, but I went from doing not a whole lot to trying to do everything. And that just took like, the more I got involved within Breathe U, I started to realize that, oh, like all this energy that I'm putting here, I need to put that into my job. And like, although it may not look the way I want it to look, like I've got to double down and actually like focus. Like, yes, don't just show up to work on time, but meal prep, like go to sleep on time. You can't be up trying to get this information that's going to help your life if you're kind of trying to destroy what part of your life is already active. So in doing that, I think I was dealing with stress in an unhealthy way, and it didn't become apparent until 2017. And then slowly but surely, by the end of the year, I had, I guess you would call it almost like a panic attack, to where like I forgot to do one small thing, like register for a test. And I was just freaking out because I was like, I did this, they sent it to the wrong email, but it was like, there's no reason to panic. I'd waited, I spent the better part of that year preparing for that moment. And then it's like, I didn't do it. So I was like, crap. Like the next thing, there was a deadline that came up for a payment. I think it was for the retreat, the men's retreat in November. And then I didn't do that. And I was like, geez, how in the world am I going to work on $1 billion project and get my job done if I can't even like check an email? Like, I know that's a terrible way to think, and that's like a horrible rationale, but that's kind of where my mindset was at. And I spoke with a friend, luckily, that kind of pulled me out of that, was like, hey, like, shake it off. Like, I've been through a divorce. I've been through having to move back in with my mom when my house was being repossessed and all of this. Like, I care enough about you to know that if you need to take a break, just go talk with your boss and take the break that you need to do. Don't think that this job won't go on without you. It's like, you do good work, but like if you're not able to do your work anymore, it's not going to do you any good. You're not going to be good to anybody. And I kind of took that with some solace but then I was like, I had this same mentality kind of from high school, maybe high school football, where it was that like quitters or losers. And I was like, I just remember so many people having to quit the team because they had personal things come up, like their family had to move, like they had to relocate or something. As soon as they had to leave the team, they go to the coach one-on-one and they try to talk to him. Next thing the coach is doing, he brings it back to us and say, oh, so and so had to leave. But it's like they start shaming the player, or they start shaming that person to be like, oh, they weren't good enough to be here, so they had to leave. They don't tell us that this person had to leave for personal reasons. And if something personal is going on in your life, you need to take care of you before you worry about the team and the group. So I said all that to say, from 2017 to rolling into 2018, I responded to fear versus reason. And I did not take the advice of my friend that told me, hey, talk to your boss about maybe taking a month off or 2 months off. And you're talking about working for a company that's 40,000 plus employees, you have full benefits, all that, but I'm not looking at any of that. I'm just looking at, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, so that means that means that I'm not worth it anymore. And it's always just like everything's been, you either succeed or you fail. There's no in between. And kind of taking that mentality, it basically brought me to a breaking point in the summer of 2018 where I couldn't get up one day to go to work. And I called a close friend of mine and I was just like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I need help. Like, if you can help me, just help. And essentially ended up calling the Georgia crisis hotline to say like, okay, I'm going to stay on the phone with you, talk with the operator, like through what's going on. And it's like, we talk through, it's like, are you having suicidal thoughts or this? Is like, no, I got dressed and I just, for some reason, I can't bring myself to walk out of my room. Like I can't walk out of my bedroom. And just kind of like processing that and trying to think like what in the world's going on, because it's like you've already gone to a high level school, like a high level engineering school in Atlanta, and you just figure it's kind of like your battle scars. You go here, you're tested, you're basically being prepared for the world, and you just think, okay, like it's normal. Everybody that goes to Georgia Tech comes out and has like a little tick. You see people and they have this like twitch, and you're like, oh, you went to school there. And like we all laugh about it, but it's like there's certain things you have to really deal with. But having to call the crisis hotline and actually going to a behavioral health facility or mental health facility was the first time that I became aware that mental health was a thing. Like I'm sure if my friend ever listens to this, she'll be like, no, like I told you about this over and over, but you try to act like what's going on in your head isn't a big deal. Just because you don't see it physically doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were able to get some assistance.
Yeah, I was. And just with that kind of dealing with the stigma that's placed around it, I'm sure you know as well as I do, or probably even better, that mental health is something that's just not respected. And when people are going through minor problems like, hey, I forgot to do something, or you're constantly dealing with stress and you don't have a positive or like an outlet where you can go and say play sports after work or be able to create a podcast. That's kind of the reason that I did this, is like give yourself a chance to talk or at least listen to people because you enjoy listening to people, and then just be able to have something that like you produce yourself to, where it's not just, oh, I worked on that project and like maybe I signed my name over on the corner of something you'll never see. But yeah, that's sort of how I got here. Yeah.
Your story is powerful.
Thank you.
Yep, it's powerful. Yeah, and mental health is right now something that really needs to be discussed a great deal. Um, I had no intentions of speaking about it. You know, like I shared with you, I had no intentions of speaking about it in my video
Hmm.
when I was at the point of committing suicide. Um, I, I regret not picking up the phone to call an 800 number because I knew exactly what I was getting ready to do,
Hmm.
and probably should have called an 800 number and said, "Look, I'm getting ready to take my life. I just want to let you know." But
Right.
um, so in that moment that you felt out of control, like you were having what I call an out of body moment,
Hmm.
where your body was like, I don't know why you think we heading to work, but we ain't going there.
Right.
Um, what do you think is probably the most profound thing that you learned from that experience?
I'd say the most profound thing I learned from that experience and having many more of those experiences this year is that when something's brought to your attention like that by somebody that cares enough about you,
Yeah.
like you really got to just you've got to trust the people that trust you enough to speak to you.
Hmm.
And just going back to talking about being in a toxic environment,
Hmm.
um, what's so toxic about it is that you start to question your own thoughts and feelings where people are always ready to just give you their opinions that you didn't ask for,
Hmm.
and they're always willing to jump in and destroy something that you have as good. And if you pay too much attention to, as I did, I paid way too much attention to everybody else around me, where even after I sought the mental health, I thought, okay, like I've been working on getting closer with my family, and here's somebody that I don't necessarily open up with, but like maybe if I share something this personal, they'll be able to open up with me and we'll be able to kind of start a dialogue. But I quickly learned that that backfired. And because I valued their opinion more than myself,
Hmm.
I made the mistake of being on like a good regiment to where it's like, okay, you're here. I need you to take some medication, which is another stigma. It's
Hmm.
like, I need you to take some medication. It is just simple. And then get back to what you've been doing. Like, do this activities, be eating right, be doing this. And then being asked a simple question of, like, well, if you're doing all the activities and you're taking all the food and you're feeling better, like, what's the point of the medicine? And I'm sitting here thinking, huh, you're right. But not, you're not a doctor.
Hmm.
You weren't there when I was down on myself. You hadn't even talked to me in like months. Like I just come to you and kind of like bare my soul for whatever reason because I'm being naive. And then all of a sudden I take your opinion. And then not only what I share with you goes from me just having a conversation with you, but then all of a sudden I'm getting a call from my mom saying, "Oh, hey, I heard you were doing this. Like, what's going on? What's going on?" And I'm like, I was gonna call my mom and talk to her, but I just wasn't gonna have that conversation. And then all of a sudden, it's like feeling this pressure, and
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
I don't I don't know if I answer the question, but I would end it with this. Like the thing that I found most profound is that growing up as an adult, like you really have to divorce your old mindset and your old habits to where you can't continue like just because people want to treat you as the youngest or the second youngest, like they all see you as that little kid that grew up, but
Yeah.
they don't see you at work, they don't see you putting in the work to do all of this. Like I literally before our video started, I figured out how to get an email account for this with a domain name that the guys on the prayer line helped me set up because I was like, "Oh, hey, I think I've got the name of it." They're like, "Did you get a domain name? Like, go ahead and lock that up now." I was like, "How do I do that?" They say, "Go to GoDaddy.com, search it." I
Hmm.
search it. It's like, oh, I type in "it's my time," and then I'm like, "Oh, it's taken." And somebody's like, did you put podcast after it? And I'm like, oh no, let me try it. Like,
Mhm.
put in the billing information, all of that. And like, I would have never thought that just being in the right environment, but then again, staying in the right environment,
Yeah.
like just creates opportunities for you when you least expect them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would say definitely continue to stay in that environment.
Yeah.
Um, I was going to ask you something else, but I forgot what I was going to say.
My bad.
I was going to mention when I was going through my storm, I had to get counseling.
Mm,
And that too is a stigma that if you
yep.
get counseling, that you're this and that. And
Yep.
I got counseling for over a year and a half.
Mm,
And I would say it was the best thing I had ever done.
yeah.
And so I want to encourage everyone that has ever gone through the type of storm that you've been through, that I've been through, anyone that's listening to this podcast, to please, seek out counseling, seek out some assistance. It is by far, it sounds like one of the best things that ever happened to you, and definitely was one of the best things that happened to me,
Yeah.
but to seek the right people.
Yeah, it definitely. And also when you seek the counseling, to stay committed to it, because
Yeah.
for me, I kind of kept dipping my toe in the water and dipping out, because I was like, this is weird coming and talking to a complete stranger. And it's
Mhm.
like, they're just sitting there and nodding their
Yeah.
head the whole time. And I'm like, why
Yeah.
do I feel so uncomfortable? I feel like I'm just walking into a room butt naked, and people are just like, just staring at me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why don't you tell me something about yourself, to where I don't feel like I'm the only one that's like out here, just no clothes on or anything like that. But
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
basically last year I like just went on and off, started this year on and off, on and off, but I finally linked up with one of the guys that's kind of helping me go through like at least weekly check-ins. But I think going into next year, or through the end of this year, I'll definitely finalize a plan for him to get back to the regular counseling, if that's what needs to be there, because he's in the mental health space and he's going through and getting licensed, and just being able to have just one-on-one conversations with him where he understands the process has been, like you said, life-changing for me, where I opened up. And in sharing the story that I did with you, when I shared it with him, he said, okay, like, you're in Augusta now, like, yeah, you should go home and talk to your little brother and share that with him, because it's like he'll respect you more for it, understanding the
Mhm.
struggles that you've been going through. And
Yes.
it's like, it's not this thing that you've got to mask, whether it's mental health or pornography or whatever else people go through, because a lot of times people hide it, and then they always say like, what's done in the dark is bound to come out.
Yeah.
And then when you have the conversations, it's like you're able to become closer, and just, it's like, oh, okay, so we're talking now, like like you can tell me that, okay, like now I can approach you. And it doesn't have to be a deep conversation, but it's like, hey, what do you think about this thing going on in the news? Or my younger brother's in college now, and I think he's been trying to find his way. And as I'm taking things from ETA and sharing it with him, I'm telling him, at least from my perspective, like, stop, like, don't focus so much on getting a degree. Like, understand that when you get out of here, you're trying to manage the relationships that you have, and start looking at what is it that you like, or what is it that you love, and start thinking, if there's something that you want to do, let me know, because I know hundreds of people over here that, if you want, like, they'll be willing to talk to you and say, okay, like, hey, come shadow me, or come work over here, or come work over there, because it's like the opportunity is available, but they're only available now because the conversations are happening. And just being vulnerable for a minute and saying like, hey, I'm struggling and I need help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good. I'm proud of you. I'm
Thank you.
very, very proud of you. Yeah. Yeah. Continue to allow that vulnerability to not only help yourself, but to help other people. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that's it. You want to wrap it up there? Or should we
Um,
keep going?
what do you, what would you like for me to share to end our call? What would you like for me to share?
I would say definitely let people know how they can get in touch with you, when they should expect the book, and if you have any last words of closing, that would be great.
Okay. So, hey guys, it's Shelly Shelton. I have enjoyed this podcast. I hope and pray that you continue to jump on and listen. To get in contact with me, I would love if you're interested in getting more information about how to get through divorce, how to have how to have that healthy bounce back after divorce and separation, all that type of stuff. Contact me. My website is shellyshelton.com. On my website are details as far as how to get my books. I have a new book that's coming out. I'll probably drop it around end of October, beginning first week in November. So stay tuned for that. It is The Adventures of Chandler and the Traveling Prayer Shawl. And then also my Instagram is I_am_Shelly_Shelton. I need to change that. And that's the gram. And then, of course, Facebook is I Am Shelly Shelton, LLC, or just pop in Shelly Shelton. You'll reach me there. And then, of course, YouTube. So on YouTube, if you would, just type in Female Motivational Speaker Divorce Recovery. And I would love for you to take a look at that video, because that video speaks about my life. And I'm in prayer that once you see that video, that it changes your life. Thank you so much for today. It's been awesome. Thank you for being you. Continue to be a force to be reckoned with in this podcast game, and continue to make time for you to get rest. So
Thank you, ma'am.
that's it. Thank you so much.
Good seeing you.
All
I'll
right.
see you around.
All right. Take care. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.